So you have an article that is or will soon be up about the Iowa Parents Back in Charge. The title of the piece has to do with returning education to the state's waiver. Is that right?
Yes.
Tell me what this is about.
Yeah. So in January, the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, came to Iowa and announced that Iowa was the first state to be accepted into what's called the Returning Education to States program, which basically allows Iowa to have flexibility in using federal education dollars as they see best. And so this would be what we call allowing those dollars to be given to Iowa in the form of a block grant, and so they would have greater flexibility. And so, which means there's less strings attached, and so less federal regulations that, because what it boils down to, and this is what Governor Reynolds has said, is that basically Iowa schools know how to best run their schools better than what the bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. And what we've seen for decades is that, whether it's No Child Left Behind, all this regulatory policy with education is that it hasn't really helped education. And so what this does is allow greater flexibility for the states. And so it's pretty exciting for Iowa being the first state to have this flexibility. And this also fits into what we've already done in terms of state policy, and so that means we've expanded parental choice, school choice policies here in Iowa. So that means the ESA program, Education Savings Accounts. We've expanded charter schools, and we've seen this year new charter schools taking place, and also new ones in the process. Open enrollment, barriers to open enrollment have been taken down. And so, in fact, I think we've even seen more people, more students take advantage of open enrollment than we have, I think, with ESAs. I think we're seeing that in definitely in some districts. And all this is where it boils down to is that when it comes to education at the state and the local level, that's where the teachers, the parents, the administrators, they know how to run this better than what the Department of Ed in Washington, D.C. And so what, Republicans for a long time have wanted to abolish the Department of Education. And what Reagan famously said, there's the next thing to permanent life on earth is a government program.
Right. I think this is a key point here, John. Why and I want you to maybe restate it or talk about it some more. Why is it that education policy should be led by states, not the federal government?
Yeah, the main point is that one is it's constitutional for the states to do it. There's nothing in the Constitution under the powers of Congress under Article 1, Section 8 that says that Congress should even be involved in this. It's a state issue under the 10th Amendment.
The presumption is everything is a state issue unless specifically enumerated, right?
Yeah. And so the Department of Education is technically an expansion of government that I would say is unconstitutional. Setting that aside, and the other thing is you have ample evidence, decades of policy being dictated from Congress. Whether it's, I think we had Goals 2000, you had No Child Left Behind, you had all these different federal legislation that created regulations and rules and standards, and the quality of education has gone down, but yet we continue to dump tons and tons of money into education. So the question is, we're spending all this money on education, but yet why are the metrics going down? Why is the quality going down?
So you also talked about the things we've done on education reform, ESAs, charters, open enrollment. Like, how does this fit into that? How does this federal waiver allow? Are there opportunities to leverage this? How does that work together?
Yeah, and so what this does is it may not. There is some, I think, elements to this waiver that would support some of the school choice policies that Iowa has done, but basically what this does is it basically allows Iowa to take that federal money to spend that as they see fit. So, for example, to look at student achievement gaps and how to target those resources to what what districts think would be the best way to handle those, not necessarily what the Department of Ed would say. And so that's what the governor is recommending, is that instead of having Linda McMahon or the bureaucrats say, Iowa really should be spending this amount of money on this program or this, what they're doing, what the Trump administration is doing is let states figure that out.
Yeah.
And so what the governor then is doing is and she's allowing parents to have a greater say.
Yeah.
Which is actually what comes down to the heart of education, is who should be in control of education is the parents. And so allowing parents to have that choice of whether they want to be in a public school or go to a home school or a private school, they have that choice now because of the ESA, because of open enrollment. They don't have to be trapped in a district. Before there was barriers. There's charter school options that are available, and the charter schools kind of have a specialized education format. And so there's all this opportunities that are there now. And I think with the federal dollars, it just, especially when it probably majority of it applies to the public schools, but it allows that flexibility. And so it gives us, at least, because, I think, Iowans know how to run Iowa schools better than Washington, D.C. That's what it boils down to.
Right. And we talk about Iowans know better. I think we can tailor it better to what's going on. In Iowa, Iowans and their elected representatives here, it's closer to the actual delivery of that service, which is, I think, I've made the point many times before, if I don't like something that comes out of the Department of Education, that's really hard for me as an individual citizen to deal with. But here in Iowa, I can go talk to my state legislator pretty much anytime I want. May not be busy at a given time, but I can walk up to the front door of the Iowa House, or I can go to a local school board meeting and talk to my school board. That's where those decisions about education should be taking place, and parent groups and all those other things, not inside the cathedrals of bureaucracy in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. And we've noticed, and I think even when you were in the legislature, we've seen the Iowa legislature, education funding is so rigid. It's in all these buckets. They've started loosening those strings up even at the state level, and so districts can they still have the buckets, but it's becoming a little more loose, I think, where they can be a little more flexible. And that's a good thing because, each district is so different.
Yeah.
And so the superintendents, the teachers, they know best rather than even the Department of Ed at the state level. And so that's why in a sense that localized, where the parents, the teachers, they know what's best, how to run that classroom, not some bureaucrat.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, what's the net of it then? Just to kind of summarize, what does this mean for students and parents in Iowa?
This is giving more freedom to parents and students, and it's giving more opportunity, and it's allowing greater autonomy for the state. It's basically going back to what education should be, and it's a less of a command control type system, and that's a good thing.